Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to TCGU's Final Fantasy podcast. My name is Noah, your lovely host, and I'm joined by
Byron.
And
what's up, homies? Zeth here again.
He's always going to be here, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah,
we love him here. So, excuse me.
He's just mad they lost to Royal Ripeness.
I didn't lose to him yet. My deck lost to him. I didn't play it. I have not played against it yet.
Go ahead and have a degree of separation. Whatever helps you sleep at night.
So
Tam lost to it because he was playing my deck.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully, we'll have a great housekeeping segment here. For some reason, we can't find it with ourselves because we're all spazzes. Mine is Zeth over here. He's just living life. But we'll get the base housekeeping besides that out of the way. How is everybody's week going on with Final Fantasy? How's everything been with the game itself for you?
It's been all right. I haven't built any new decks. I'm still playing the same old decks that I have. But
there's a door you can just walk.
I mean,
thanks for contributing.
Exactly. I don't know. I don't feel like building. Like the only deck that I want to build right now is Weewa, Water Wind, and
you're talking about the YRP variant.
Yeah, the YRP variant.
Of course.
But like, it's almost like I don't see a point right now to build anything if there's no like major tournaments happening. But you know, I guess you can make your skills better during this time. But
you sharpen your blade against me in true combat.
Yeah. So
it's a great person to play against.
No, yeah, for sure. Like I like playing against Seth.
Gotta keep it sharp. No, like this entire time with everything that's been going on, like you raise a point on. Well, there's not really any tournament scenes right now. This is the time to start getting good. Mm-hmm. Like this is the time where you get in that hyperbolic time chamber and you just grind everything out. Like I've been on all these I've been on MogPod Gaming, I've been on Final Fantasy Crystarium, all these different resource sites. I'm looking at all these different Theorycraft decks that people are coming around, and I've built them and I'm jamming out games with them. Yeah. And like this is how I've learned to get better at the game, is that I'm just jamming decks out.
I should actually start playing this game on tabletop as well. Octagon's cool. Tabletop's just a lot easier for me now.
Right, and that makes sense. You've always find your preferential. Absolutely.
How have you been doing?
Me?
Besides, your hyperbolic time chamber. You're really good at that.
I've mainly just been jamming out games, refining the list that I have so far. I've adjusted Mono Fire a little bit. I've adjusted Mono Wind to have kind of a hexproof theme like Magic's Gathering, where my guys can't be targeted by stuff, so that way they stay on board a little bit better.
Wind definitely needs that, yeah.
I still haven't really played around with water at all, and I just haven't found anything really enticing with it.
It's okay. I don't mess with water at all. That's his job usually.
Right.
Yeah. And
with the Beatrix, I probably will.
Oh, no, absolutely. Beatrix would probably actually bring me around to start playing.
Dive head first. We're going.
Water, dive in. I see what you did there.
Yeah. How's locals been? I haven't been able to attend locals like ever.
They've been off and on for the amount that I've played there. I have tried different decks. Like I actually brought this Fire Lightning deck that I found on MogPod Gaming. The idea behind it is that you play backups that do removal, you play summons that do removal, and the deck only really plays 7 functional forwards.
Oh yeah, that was the one you were...
Yeah, and your other forwards are Terra to grab your summons back. Zac actually acts as a forward version of Ifrit that can't be interacted with during end phase. And then I replaced Veritas in the deck with Hein, because Hein is so hard to deal with when your opponent has a hand size, right? And that when you're playing a deck that I'm already on full back row and I have Hein out, I draw 2 cards, I'll just pass. Because he sits there. If you try to interact with him in any way, shape, or form,
no.
Cool. I haven't flipped the cape.
Yep.
He just flips the cape. What color are you feeling today, Hein? I'm gonna flip the cape. Oh, I'm feeling purple today.
I'm feeling purple today. Lightning ain't touching me.
Yeah, no. Like the only real out I've seen against him is Veritas so far, because what leads to me is that I try to keep him by himself on board. But if Veritas comes out, then I've actually teched in the 2-drop Cloud that breaks Dark forwards. So after it happens, I'll play Cloud to break the Dark forward. So I don't feel so bad afterward.
Yeah, like definitely playing against that deck. Zeth and I played a couple games just before we got started the podcast. And
what are your thoughts on it,
like,
Byron?
So going into the matchup, I didn't know anything of what your deck did.
Oh yeah.
So
same. It's fine. I pulled through.
Well, yeah, your deck was more actually.
You were playing Fire Ice, so you had hand pressure off.
Yeah,
that's
so
why.
playing. So I was playing Mono Fire, and Mono Fire plays pretty slow and it's reactive. So the fact that you weren't playing many forwards and you had just kept Hein out the whole time, like I was just trying to play as many of my summons to get Hein off your board, but then you're just discarding cards. And the thing is, like, he's able to get a big hand size just because I'm not doing much either. Like, I'm just waiting for him to do things so I can actually react to what he's doing.
So I don't need to do anything.
Exactly.
I can wait all day.
So, like, the first game, like, I literally decked out just because I was actually searching through my deck because I got things that search through my deck.
I searched once.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like, after that, you were just keeping your hand size and then making sure you had your 5 backups. So then, like, you're able to just get rid of all my forwards. So then I really had no way to win, and I just decked out. So, but the second match, and I played Mono Fire again.
It's much more comfortable.
It was a little bit more comfortable just because I actually knew what I was playing against. So I knew that I had to be somewhat aggressive at the very beginning with my forwards. Just because I needed to get the damage in, so you are losing cards, and that was the biggest thing. Because if you're not losing cards and I'm not attacking you, you're gonna win by deck out. Because I'm searching through my deck a little.
Attrition, baby.
Yeah. So like after I got a couple cards that I searched out and I felt pretty comfortable with the cards in my hand, especially with the forwards, I was actually able to just kind of beat you down a little bit and actually I won because he decked out. So like it's a long game.
Very long.
But as long as you know the matchup a little bit, and now I do, I feel like it's a pretty comfortable way to kind of beat that deck. But definitely, like, I think if you were playing like decks that discard cards, it's kind of a bad matchup.
It's harder.
Yeah,
it is a lot harder.
I definitely didn't know what I was getting into, but I was like, I guess my usual game plan, which is play reactionary to their forwards and keep it dulled down. Didn't have any forwards, so the next best bet was to just try and keep the hand off. Which meant
Locke and Seth really helped with that.
I had to wait till I had what I thought was a solid board to be able to play Seth and sit on him for a bit and then get Locke and Genesis out, because one of those two are going to keep the hand low. I definitely do want to put Scaletoad in my deck as a one of. I just don't know what I want to take out for it, because like the two Setzers is really nice because for some reason when I see one, I'll see the other immediately, like in a turn or two. So I don't want to get rid of both the Setzers. But like I don't know what ice card I want to get rid of.
Well, Fire Ice is already pretty cramped for space, and what you want to play.
With you being an aggressive deck, you really don't want to incentivize your opponent to play forwards, because that's what Scaletoad tends to do. Is it pressures your opponent to play cards, otherwise they lose them. And with Fire and Ice, you want to try to end it as quick as possible. When you start playing the game with Scaletoad, it's getting a lot longer. And with Fire Ice is that you want to get in there.
Well, the thing though, at least with the way I'm currently playing it, I play for not the long game, but a mid to long-ish game.
6 mid-range, it's still very viable.
Because I want Seth and Celeste to just lock them down. You lock the two down with those two, and then anything else they have, your other forwards will deal with.
Absolutely.
And it's not too big of an issue, and they lose hand off of either Scaletoad, Seth, Genesis, or Locke. You just get the freeze on two dudes, and then like if you hit the 4,
it's the
play
snowball.
Emperor and you free 2 more. Yeah, it definitely will just snowball past that, because once they put down dudes and they can't put down any more dudes because they don't have cards in hand, you just keep those locked down and you're good for the rest of the game. Yeah. That's why I love seeing snow in my hand like turn 1 or turn 2, because I can slap that down and feel comfortable with the rest of the game, because if I ever need to lock something, I just swing with the dude and something else will pick it up.
So speaking of lock, we were going to be talking about Boogeyman today, weren't we?
Yeah. So hitting our first topic of the show, after our great introductions and stuff, we have Boogeyman and or salty cards and or holy fuck, stop playing that, I'm tired of it. These are the cards, you just put Boogeyman, or man, whatever. These are the cards you hate playing against because it's hard for you to deal with personally.
Good.
Yeah. What do you hate playing against the most?
Go to me after.
What do you hate playing against the most?
The card that I tend to struggle with the most personally is the 3-drop Zidane, the one that lets you peek at your opponent's hand, they discard a card. The issue I have with Zidane is that, you have this really nice setup, right? You're ready to go off to the races. Your opponent turn 1 or turn 2's Zidane, and you lose that one backup, that 1/2 cost backup that you were looking to make your hand playable. Your hand is now completely pointless, right? And you don't want to kill it because it's a 3K.
Yeah.
Right? Or if you try to...
It's just wasting more cards.
Yeah. Or if you try to like kill him with like a 6K like burn spell or any other effect that's 6K, he becomes a 7K then because you have 2 cards left in your hand. So if you don't like play the numbers game right with him, he dodges your removal.
Yeah, that's fair.
If you kill it, if there's more copies in their deck, they'll just play the second one.
Yep.
And then you lose another card.
Yep.
Or worse, they play Mione, he goes back to their hand because you didn't kill it. They draw a card and they just play it again.
Or you play Chocobo and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the worst part about that card. If like the card itself is pretty good, but once you pair it along with other cards that are gonna let you replay that card.
Yep.
It's just it gets a little bit harder to play
because
against.
your opponent's not playing 3 copies of that card; they're playing potentially 5 or 6 copies of that card.
Because it's kind of like the old saying I had with 7-drop Seth is a deck can survive 1 Seth, but can it survive 2?
Can it survive the Shadow Flare?
Yeah.
Or just another one being played. Like,
exactly. So that's like my boogeyman card because there's really no interaction with ETBs except for like Y'shtola. And I'm like, for me to burn a Y'shtola to stop a Thoughtseize, like that's the Magic the Gathering card that lets you look at your opponent's hand and you take a card from it. Like, it's so cheap. Like, I don't want to stop it.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason to. I mean, with Amaterasu coming out, I'm fine. Amaterasu
for sure.
Zidane. That's fine. But as of right now,
Amaterasu is pretty pricey though.
for 3,
3.
Oh wait, never mind that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of something else.
I was gonna say,
I'm probably thinking of Phoenix. I don't know why. Don't listen to me.
like, I'd rather just choose a card that I want to lose
Yeah.
and then get rid of Zidane than have you see my entire hand
Yeah.
and know exactly what I'm going to do the next 2 or 3 turns. That's bad.
For sure.
And this is coming from the guy that played Lightning Wind Vaughn and turn 1 Vaughn Zidane. That felt good on my end, but having to be on the opposite side of that, I wouldn't wish that in 1,000 years.
A boogeyman for me, I'd probably have to say Ritz, like the newest card.
Activate 3 backup,
Yeah.
so good.
That card
With
just
no, my whole
Yeah.
backup line.
that just gains so much advantage, and it's kind of hard to deal with, just because they're gonna have all their backups ready again, so they're gonna be able to use their cards in their hands. Like it could potentially get out of hand for sure.
Rids can definitely stomp over somebody if they hit that 3 damage threshold and then slap her down.
Yeah, that
Well,
too.
Yeah, you just need to swing once
Yeah.
with Reeds. And this is from me playing Marsh Reeds. Swing with her once, you've basically got the game. If you swing with her twice, you should win. There's no reason why you shouldn't win after that, right? So I guess my question for you, Byron, is this. Is Reeds the boogeyman card for you, or is the Shadow Marsh behind her the problem card for you?
I'd still say Reitz.
Okay.
Just because she doesn't need she gains haste, right? Because if you have Marsh
or Shara or any other FFT
even if it lives that 1 turn without Marsh, like let's say you don't have Marsh on board, you still have Ritz, and it lives that 1 turn, so then you get attack with the next turn. You're still gonna ready 3 cards. So I think the card itself is still like the boogeyman.
Okay.
And Marsh just enhances that.
Yeah, he does make it really insane.
Because like you're able to swing right away when you bring him on board.
That's correct.
That's the thing that makes it even worse. So I still think it's Reitz, but Marsh definitely enhances the fact that it's a boogeyman.
He's her shadow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Man, my boogeyman card. It's bounced around a lot.
Okay.
Veritas used to be it.
Okay.
And then I got
good.
somewhat good at the game, and I was like, I can play around Veritas for fine.
Yeah.
Then it was Famfrit. And then I build decks that build up a board that Famfrit just can't deal with by itself. So then I just don't have to worry about Famfrit. Shoot, dude. Currently, like, I don't know what my boogeyman card is. And I can't say it's because I don't have one. It's probably just because I haven't encountered a deck that has just thrown me off my shit.
Okay.
I've had decks that get close, but usually it's just the same cards that I've had to learn how to deal with.
Okay.
I'm definitely not a special dude. It's just I can't think of a card off the top of my head, nor when we were out there, that scares me to shitless that I see get played against me. Maybe Vaughn. Maybe.
The 6-drop Vaughn?
The 5-drop. That says I have to pay CP for all my dudes.
Oh, Vayne?
Vayne, yeah. Maybe.
Vayne's trash.
It's we've
been
been through this.
Yes.
You think that card... that's fair, but...
Vayne is terrible.
The only reason I say that is if I'm not playing properly, or if I make one mistake.
So if you're bad.
Yeah, or if I make one mistake that shouldn't like punish me hard enough, that card could probably just get rid of what I need on board. That's a hard maybe though. He's over here dying.
Speaking of dying, the other boogeyman card for me now is the new 2-drop Zidane, the one that's hasting an 8K dude.
Oh, I love that card.
So like,
I think you like fucked me over with that one game.
So here's the thing, right? Like you get your opponent like 1-2 damage. Okay, cool, right? Like you actually managed to get like a decent 1 or 2 forwards, right? Next thing you know, your opponent's paying 2 backups, puts Homeboy Zidane out, and he ganks your best forward. And then the worst part about it is that he's a 2K dude. You don't want to kill it. You don't want to block it. It's bad.
You either don't want to kill it or you don't want to block a 2K dude because it just feels awkward to have like any forward take that damage and then like something else come and kill it. That card's hilarious though.
But the other problem with Zidane also is that when you're playing him in fire, that can't block. Zidane's just gonna scoot around the opposite side and he's gonna backstab it for another 8K.
Yup.
So like, he really punishes early starts.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Really hard.
If you have shit that doesn't have Brave, Zidane's coming in more than likely.
Right. Or in my Fire Ice 6 build, I played him with Snow. So when Zidane's coming in...
That's really good.
You had a blocker. That sucks.
You thought. That's actually really good. Yeah. I like that.
All right, so you mentioned about salty cards too, right?
Well, yeah.
Some other there's still other boogeymen. Like there's still
absolutely.
cards that are like people maybe not us personally consider boogeymen, but there are people out there that consider those cards boogeymen. Like for instance, Ilua, Shantoto, Ilua. I think Ilua
Isola, maybe.
Ilua mostly because the fact that you have to target it with something, in order for it to lose the first effect, where it can't like what does the wording on it say?
Can't be targeted.
Can't be targeted.
It cannot be targeted or chosen.
And then, but it loses. It's like it's essentially a bubble.
Yeah, the Ilua bubble.
Yeah.
So like, depending on the deck that you're running,
and yeah,
Ilua is super safe. But I think a lot of like once you kind of get to a decent level of FF, you realize that cards like Exodus or cards like Aphrodite that do damage to the entire board. I've adopted in a lot of my decks. I just go for sweeps. The reason I go for sweeps over specific removal, I'm not dealing as much damage to a particular target, but I can stop Ilua's because of it. I can stop Phil Thanos because of it.
Yeah, I mean, you did play 3 on 1 Phil Thanos. I was shocked, but I knew it was coming and I couldn't stop it. So
yeah, it was my out.
Yeah,
like, and I like having outs to a majority of decks because in FF, not a lot of forward-based setups are ready for sweeps. At least not yet. So the real thing that you have to do is that when you're building up developing your board, you can't go into sweeps, right? Like if you already have 2 or 3 forwards out, there's no reason for you to go any further.
Unless you have protection.
Right, but but even then, like you have to be like mindful because if you go out into like 5 or 6 and then your opponent Shantoto's you, well then you just feel bad.
But just don't play against Earth.
Don't play against Earth. Let me get good enough to go to finals, and my opponent just sits there with an Earth deck.
Oh, I'll scoop.
Shantoto's my board.
I'll scoop. I'll scoop.
I'm not feeling like playing, dude.
They just give the handshake.
Right?
No, but yeah, that's definitely something that you have to like consider. Is this? I think the game state of what this game is turning to be right now is definitely you kind of have to work on your deck building where you are including cards that are gonna do it doesn't target one specific card. It targets it's a
you
whole
need
board.
A very generic spread.
Yeah.
Or something like Veritas where it's like I'm not targeting it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like Famfrit. You pick.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like Veritas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's something the game is developing into right now for sure. Just make sure you're including a couple cards that kind of just hit a general group instead of just one specific card.
Did I hear Blade Beam Cloud?
I will say that you actually bring a good point. This is I've kind of referred to it myself as the Yu-Gi-Oh effect, where we're starting to like really look for effects from our forwards that do like all the removal and stuff like that. So as a counterbalance to that, the thing I've started considering is like, especially for my mono win list, is choosing forwards that can't be targeted by abilities. Because Braska looks real great until you can't target any forwards with it. After that, he's just a 10k.
Yeah.
And you can easily beat over that because then you can Diabolos it. They can't target any of your forwards because if my only forward's the Dane, you can't target it.
I play Lava Spider.
You're just gonna
block it.
Yeah, you're just gonna raw dog over him. Wow.
I'm telling you, biggest meme of the century is just play a deck with Lava Spider and raw dog over everything. I'm gonna play a bunch of tiny dudes like Onion Knight Lava Spider. Just fucking swing.
So like if you really want to like sell that meme as far as possible, if you mirror Lava Spider, it's 11K for one.
So, Onion Knight Lava Spider.
No.
No, but I do think that I think Braska is definitely something that a lot of people.
I think he's the new boogeyman.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are trying to make their decks kind of be able to deal with Braska in some way, and I think moving forward, depending on what the next sets what comes in the next sets,
right?
I think that is a card that people are going to have to worry about in the meta going in the future. Whenever we do have bigger tournaments,
right.
You're going to want to have a way to deal with that, or if you don't, just hopefully you don't play against that card. But it's going to be, I think it's going to be around a lot.
Or close the game out before Braska comes out anyways.
Braska usually comes out later in the game though too.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, if your opponent windmills that dude out super early.
Because there have been instances in Mono Fire, and when I looked at the deck profile, sometimes jamming Braska out is the play. So like turn 2, turn 3 Braska, if your opponent has like 2 forwards but they only have like 1 or 2 cards in hand and you jam out that Braska, if they don't rip into something that gets them off that board, you're going to take that game over because their forwards can't stand up to your 10k shots.
Not quick enough.
It's just not going to happen.
That's fair.
But even with that in mind, do you guys still think that Veritas still fits in that boogeyman role, or do you think that he's kind of became a played around status?
I think Veritas can still be played. I think it's weird because I could consider him a gatekeeper, and I could say that he still goes further than that as well.
So he like tests like how well you understand the game.
Yeah, like how well can you get around the Veritas? If you can't do it, you're not going to progress any further. But if you do, you also have to worry about like other people at a higher skill level that are able to use Veritas effectively as well.
Right.
I love
like what if they're not playing it to deal with the forward, they're playing so you can remove it and they can deal with your backup line just because.
I love how you said that it's like the gatekeeper, just because I just imagine Veritas standing with the door and it's like letting all the other boogeymans come in. Like, come on, guys.
He's the bouncer. Like, he sizes Braska up, right? He kind of gives him like that stare through the shades. He kind of looks down at the list. He opens the door up for Braska, and then Braska shoots him for 10 as he's walking by.
That's kind of what I imagine in my head. So I like that you mentioned them as a gatekeeper per se. So I think it's really cool.
I would say I still think Veritas is a really solid card and still something that like you shouldn't just shrug off.
Yeah.
Because if your opponent plays it super early, or if they play it once you're established and like you're at the point where you can't reestablish because you've gone through so many resources.
Yep.
Veritas will definitely just kind of hold on tight.
Nothing feels worse than losing 2 or 3 forwards and you finally get that one to stick, and your opponent discards 1 card and pays for backups, and they Veritas it away. Like, it is one of the most soul-sucking aspects, is that you finally get a dude on board, and then Veritas is just like, hi, shake my hand. You're going to be going into the grave
You
now.
want to try and get rid of them, but in the process, you have to, like, not play another forward out or something in case you decide not to break a backup. Or you have to set, like, it's just rough. Because it's not just because of on entry, bye to your forward. It's, oh hey, you sent me to the break zone. I'm leaving, but give me your car keys as well. Like, okay, and I can't stop him.
He leaves a message.
Yeah, like he's like a hitman. Blood on the wall. See you later. But I think he's one. I think Kadaj has. If he isn't there, he definitely has the potential to be a boogeyman for any deck that has solid recursion, or for any deck that for some reason decides to play maybe two forwards and have like that one that's like their big boss monster type thing. Yeah. Kadaj will definitely help keep that in lock.
I think the other problem with Kadaj also is that your deck has no instant speed interaction. Then Kadaj just walks all over you.
As you said, he's a fucking squirrel and you can't catch him.
Yeah, like he is the squirreliest forward that we currently have. And like this is even before Emmett Selch comes out, right?
Yeah. Oh
so, like,
God, can you imagine a deck of those two?
Yeah, so like you have like Emmett Selch and Kadaj, and you have these just 2 super squirrely forwards, and then you just play stuff like the 6-drop Fanfrit and stuff behind that. All of a sudden, you have these 2 forwards that they're not going to be there when you play Fanfrit. Your opponent loses 2 forwards, and they come back in, and they both do stuff when they come back in.
That new card is a 9K too, isn't it?
Emmett Selch is a 9K that says on play, pay 2 for, is it Dull Freeze? Right? I can't remember. For sure.
Emmett Selch?
Yeah.
His 2 abilities are that whenever he's targeted by a summoner ability, he leaves play. Damage 5 is that when he comes in, choose a Dull forward, break it, or choose a 2-drop from your break zone, put it in play for free.
That's what. Okay, cool.
Insane.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, if you're able to combo both those cards, then you bring in Kadaj, bring in Emmett, Kadaj Dull something, Emmett break it.
Yeah, that's how you
for 2 CP.
That's how you organize it.
Yeah, like nice. Want to try again?
Yeah.
Hope you're playing cards that can't be dulled. Yeah, I know. I think Kadaj is definitely in that space. I think Shantoto's still there for anybody that wants to play a massive board.
You're talking about the 7-drop one,
yeah,
right?
7-drop Shantoto. Even 9-drop, you mentioned.
Right, because the 9-drop comes out, breaks your 3 cost back
I
up.
think the only reason the 9-drop is so Boogeyman-esque is because of Rampier, though.
So he's kind of that shadow card, kind of like how Marsh is with Reeds.
Yeah.
Like
Rampier's the actual problem card.
Not Shantoto.
Not Shantoto.
So the way that I see Rampier, right, is that he need like that category for him. You need decent cards with him. Like, it's good that 9-drop Shantoto is in that category. If he didn't have, like, that Shantoto, or he didn't have, like, the, like, Preesh, right? He would just be kind of seen as, like, a marginally decent 2-drop forward. Because
that's fair.
If he was only playing stuff like Kalmanat or, like, Elden Arsh and stuff like that, okay, cool, you got a free 9-10k beater. All right. Like, I can respect that. But when you're able to zap in this 9k beater that breaks a 3-cost character or resurrects a 3-cost character, that's when things kind of start
for sure.
So that's why my perspective of it is that Shantoto would be seen more as the boogeyman, and that Rampier is just kind of the backbone that gives it its strength.
Okay, fair enough. I can agree with that. I think so like Shantoto's one. Y'shtola maybe.
She's a gatekeeper, kind of like Veritas is, right?
She's like Veritas's
understudy.
Shadow. Yeah, like like Veritas is the dude working. Y'shtola's the new hire that has to watch it.
The intern.
Yeah.
So basically, like the way that I see Y'shtola gatekeeping is that she asks the question, "Can you win without summons, or can you win without that one clutch auto ability?"
Yep.
Because when I played in Reunion, my opponent was on 6 points of damage. And he secured the win by playing Y'shtola because I had a Sage in hand. Sage lets you grab any character you want from your break zone. I had an Adele in my break zone. Oh. So for that last point of damage, I had just enough CP to get that Adele and give it the unblockability and have it chug in. But he Y'shtola'd my Sage, and that was the end of the game.
Yep.
So she really does gatekeep, like, can you win without an ETB, and can you win without a summon? Or another case with it also is that, do you have a fight trigger in your deck? Because that just straight up kills her.
Yeah, it does for sure. Like, Titan's technically a fight trigger, right?
It is, but you can Y'shtola it.
Yep.
Raban would be another clean way to do it. He 9Ks himself, but he also 9Ks her. So, well, actually, hang on. She can't take damage from abilities, so...
That don't deal damage, right? Or is it...
Yeah, she can't be dealt damage by summons or abilities.
Oh, okay.
So she
That's
dodges it. So that means you'd have to go for a straight break like Kuja.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Kuja is probably one of the cleaner answers we got for her right now.
I mean, you break her or you break her. Yeah. Like, at that point, you got to do something.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you want to move on?
Yeah. So we'll move on to our second topic.
Budget?
Budget's the last one.
Oh, that one's the
So
last
we're going through cards that have been overshadowed.
Okay. The
cards that have either been power crept out, or with the way the current game works, they just not played enough because there's no reason for them at the moment.
Yeah.
Overshadowed cards.
Did I spell it right? I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. You spelled it right.
Cool. I don't want to look like that.
You were missing an F in there.
Oh shit.
Put an F in the chat, guys. Okay.
Fs, please.
So our overshadowed cards. This one's a really funny one because this card's just bad in general. But 2 CP Earth Kamari.
So, fun story. There's actually a summoner deck that's been making its ways around...
Don't say this. Don't tell me this card's actually going.
No, he's a singleton in the deck. And here's why. Because you're playing all these different multicolored summons that Kamari looks at your opponent's boards. Oh, you're playing fire? Well, now I have access to fire for my clouds. I have access to water for my water summons. You're playing wind, so I get access to my Diabolos and stuff like that. And it helps color fix you without having to play like Cosmos or Chaos. So
we're needing like Tyro for the 5. Okay,
so,
fair enough.
Like he's your super diet 5-color CP dude that when played appropriately, he gets you the CP that you need to play like Porum, to play your 2-drop Yuna, and like he's actually seen a decent amount of success in that deck.
Okay.
But I can definitely see your point. Like, we have all the Moogles now.
Yep.
People generally lean toward Cosmos or Chaos for their CP. We have Tyro now.
People can play their multicolor decks. I just don't see too many multicolor decks going around that this card would be picked over Tyro, unless like Summoners, for instance. Because Tyro does cost 5, but by default, he's any color. And he does say Dole for like 2k on something.
Yep, and he lets you grab any for it.
But that card, so it's dependent on what you're playing against, though,
yeah,
right?
but also, Kamari doesn't pay for light or dark.
No.
If that matters, which it could, but Kamari cannot count as light or dark either.
Okay. Yeah, I can see definitely. Like, there's just a lot of cards that have been coming out that definitely overshadow that.
He's uber fringe.
Yeah. You mentioned our old boy Wool.
Yes.
4 CP Earth Wool, who used to be like an actual boogeyman.
Opus 5 to 8, he was actually really good because
He just got kicked out.
Yep. A lot of the EX bursts during that time period, Odin, Mateus the Corrupted.
Yep.
They were all choose target forward, break it, right? So Wool was your response to, hey, I get to protect my entire front row now. The problem now with Wool is a lot of people are now playing just Searcher EX. So you choosing my forwards can be targeted by EX, it is basically blanked out because Kusith grabs me something out of my break zone, or I get to search a forward out of my deck, or I get to grab a forward out of my break zone and it goes to my hand.
So you're just wasting time.
Yeah, you're wasting one of his keyword abilities. The deal 3k to a dull dude, that like
doesn't really do anything.
It doesn't really impact a lot. Like, it could stop a Viking. But again, with Water kind of being on the decline and being a more fair deck, you don't see it very often anymore.
You loser.
And the other problem, is like the 2K Brave. You get that from Kadaj.
Yeah, like,
and
you just play Kadaj.
Yeah, so like the abilities that you get from Wool, you just play Kadaj, and Kadaj actually starts hitting that break zone, which Wool can't do in a million years.
Yeah,
I think.
Oh, go ahead.
I do agree with that. It's been overshadowed now, but I also think it's like you're kind of mentioning. It's kind of meta relevant, just because like you're saying that like what cards we had access to back then.
That's true. Very true.
Is very different to what we have access now.
Yeah, because we have more searchers now.
Yeah, so like not all EX bursts are trying to like deal damage necessarily.
Yep.
Now it's a little bit more versatile where you're getting advantages in other ways.
Yep.
So I think if for some reason, let's say Mono Fire actually like gets super relevant, and it's like one of the best decks. Wool's not too bad.
It's still one of the good ones.
It still is, but it's not
Wool
like
would be okay.
Yeah, because like you're able to not take damage from their EX burst that they're gonna possibly hit.
That brings up the question: why not just play Kadaj and shut down engines?
I mean, you're not wrong. That's you're not wrong. It's definitely like Kadaj is a much better Wool.
The other counter argument is Porque no las dos. Why not just go with both of them?
That's fair.
If it's, I like that you bring up that it's like a meta relevant thing, because if where you play at is still very like EX burst damage based stuff, Wool's fantastic. He does pretty well in that regard.
Locals, because of Shane for a solid amount of time, was just EX burst rampant. Because he made like that original.
It was 43 EX burst.
43 EX burst deck.
By the way,
and he played Wool, didn't he?
Out over it.
He played Wool in it because of the mirror match.
Yeah.
Yep.
But the cool thing about that deck is it actually started back in Opus 3, that EX burst deck, and like it took tournaments because again, no one expected 43 EX burst.
Oh yeah, keep hitting me, dude. What? Your board's gone. What? Cards out of your hand. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's my thoughts on Wool, is that I still feel that with Kadaj having come out, he's really invalidated a lot of 4-drops. Not only because of like all the keywords on Kadaj, but Kadaj is also a 9K.
Kadaj is a 9K that can, in himself, if not give it to somebody else, become a 4 CP 11K. Right? Because it's +2.
Which makes him just big enough that he'll need multiple burns to actually like.
Yeah, to actually get hit.
Yeah, definitely. This is kind of like deck specific, but Royal Ripeness. So
go on.
I'm listening.
That card, like, since I play Mono Fire, like, I haven't played against Seth yet because he built a Mono Fired list with Royal Ripeness in it.
Yeah, boy.
So excited.
Which I'm excited to play that matchup just because I want to figure it out, you know. I think that card is a salty card just because everything in your deck is not going to be able to take care of it. So that to me like is definitely like a salty card. But it's like I said, it's just kind of deck specific there. But you know.
Right. So that's one of your salty cards. Have you seen any cards in play that have been overshadowed in your perspective?
I don't know, dude. I haven't really been keeping up a lot with stuff.
This one just came to mind, and I can't say it's completely overshadowed because it's still a cool card.
Right.
But 7 CP Odin.
The choose a dude, break it?
Yeah. At this point, I don't think that card is necessary or super relevant when I can play Vraskas and target multiple things because it's a forward on board. Or you can play Veritas for 1 CP less and hit 2 things. Or
So with Odin, like I think it's still a good card. I don't think it's necessarily overshadowed, just because it's an EX burst.
I mean that's fair.
Yeah, and it's that very simple line of text that I kill a thing.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is like, what does Odin have better than Famfrit, for instance? Because both will target, or I guess your opponent picks because of Famfrit, but it's cheaper, and you're still getting a forward off board.
Yeah.
Odin does have a target ability, but there are still cards that can just be like, no.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying it's a terrible card. It's still cool. I just don't think it's as relevant as it used to be, and probably because it requires 7 CP.
So I think the perspective that I can offer for that card is the unpredictability of pulling Odin.
Okay,
right?
that's fair.
So like the only thing that we have that like properly synergizes with that is Seymour, which like sticks it on top, right?
Yep.
But then you run into the problem of your opponent. Okay, cool. I just want to attack, and then you have to get stuck with it in your hand. If you play Lightning, because Lightning has kind of like her own Odin engine. Like, depending on which lightnings that you play.
Yep.
Like, the 6-drop one lets you go grab 2 other Odins out of your deck. And the ones that you've already popped, you can have her use those as break effects. Especially if you've already cast them. Like, nothing's better than being able to have an Odin kill a thing. And then Lightning can dull herself and get rid of 2 of those Odins that you just played to kill another thing.
Yeah.
For some Rampierre lists that are running around back in Opus 10.5, or like Opus 10 era, is that people were playing 2 of that Lightning to go grab either the 4-drop Odin, or for some of them they're playing like the 7-drop one as a singleton, because again, it's an EX burst. If your opponent decides to be aggressive, you get to kill something off of the top, and it stops Fel Thanos. Like, it's a very simple line of text. And I still think that it has its place. It just requires, because the way that I build my decks, if there's like a particular card I want to build around, it's like, let's say I wanted to build around Odin, right? When I play Odin asks me that I have to get back row to actually play him without losing my entire hand.
Yeah.
But Odin's also then asking me, you're going to be taking damage. Because for you to actually build up to me for the payoff, you're going to get to damage 2, 3, 4.
Mm-hmm.
But my counter argument to Odin also is, why play Odin when I could just play Kuja to kill the relevant 3-drop forward or less?
Yep.
And then if I hit... No, what's funny is that if you hit Odin off of Kuja, then you kill 2 dudes. But
Ciao.
that's pretty hilarious.
I mean, funny tech to guarantee it would be Seymour stack and then Kuja Odin. That's just too much work.
Yeah.
It'd be funny to see it happen though. I'm not gonna lie.
Break 2 forwards,
like
nuts.
My opponent set that up and did it. All right, dude, good game. Like the fact that you had the time and the CP to do
100% skill.
Yeah, like I would scoop. I think so you said Kadaj basically takes 4 drops off the list.
Oh, he invalidates
a lot of 4 drops. I think a card that I can't say is overshadowed, but at this point is like invalidated roughly would be 4 CP Lightning Seymour. Right?
The break a 3-drop or less.
Yeah, because you just play Kuja.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but so many people that I've played against, and this goes even beyond like my locals, everyone's playing 4 drops now.
Yeah.
because
you stated it. 4 is the magic number.
4 is the magic number now because guess what? 3 drops or less, Kuja kills them, Seymour kills them, Ramu kills them, a majority of your Ifrits kill them. There's so much removal that stops 3 drops or less now that unless you're playing those off of backups, you're just throwing them out there to die. Mm-hmm. Whereas you put out Kadaj, you put out Kuja, you put out Nyx. That magic number 4, they dodge Diabolos for the most part, or at least they dodge the straight break part.
Yep.
Right. It also helps you dodge enemy Kujas, and with being a 4-drop, you're typically at an 8k, so it's usually going to be a semi setup like mono fireboard to actually finally be able to take care of your 4-drop, or they have to play one of their 4-drop Ifrits to actually get it off the board.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, what is this one? 5 CP, Arc. That's Arc. I can't even read my own handwriting.
Hieroglyphics.
Right.
They're amazing.
5 CP Arc. Wind Arc. We were talking about that one earlier, too. What would overshadow that card?
So, you're playing a 5-drop forward that, it activates through your back row, but then it's asking you to play a standard unit back row. You're not playing Mione as much. You're not playing any of the other unique named backups because you have to make room for your standard units. When you're paying 5 CP for a forward, it's got to do something to actually swing the board back around in your favor because it's got to pass like that Diabolos test where...
Ritz.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah. Marsh Reeds.
Yeah, like Marsh Reeds, right? Like, why play Arc?
It's essentially the same thing because of Reeds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like... I could play Arc, and then cool, I get the 3-drop Warrior of Light that I can't take damage for the turn, and then I Zodiarc you, right? Like, it's funny, and no one expects it.
Right.
But when I'm trying to do this, because I had a friend of mine that I actually discussed the deck with him, where we did the thing on, well, if I play Arc, I can grab the Chocobo that has haste, and then that Chocobo that has haste can attack you. I'm like, dude, you just play Marsh Reeds, and you get the same effect.
With the restand.
Or the funny thing is, like, you could possibly do both, but the problem then is your deck's predominantly standard units, and you don't have the FFTA stuff to make Marsh cheaper.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably get away with it with, like, Mont Blanc and Lednar, and also, essentially, like, those would be your ones that would make Marsh cheaper. And... the problem then is that Lilty gets invalidated because you have other win cards other than Reets.
Yep.
Because the whole point of it is that Litley basically says, search your deck for a Reets, put it to your hand.
Yep.
Like, at least that's how I've played it so far.
I mean, it's the best way to go through it.
And so, like, that's my issue with Arc, is that he's really cool, right? Because there's so many, like, standard units that he can play with. Like, he can grab Haste Dudes. He can grab White Mage for Break Zone elimination. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff that he's able to do, but there's a difference between doing cool stuff and winning the game.
Yeah. Yep.
So, like, you know,
I want to win the game, not style on your opponent.
Yeah.
Or you could do both. You can do both. Best player in the world. Honestly.
Fair enough.
So, inkedgaming.com. Are you looking to get a custom playmat? Well, then we suggest you check out inkedgaming.com. They have custom playmats, dice bags, mouse pads, and so much more. They have recently added a stitch option to all of their playmats. That's what I get. And mouse pads as well. Inked Gaming lets you play your game with your style. If you want to get 10% off your entire order, please use the code TCG University, all caps, no spaces at checkout, to help support the channel by customizing your game to your style. Cards Custom Build. Are you into cosplay? Looking to get into cosplay? Do you want to show up to events dressed as your favorite character? Well, Cards Custom Build can help. Cards Custom Build creates everything from cosplay accessories like props, trinkets, or weaponry, all the way up to full costumes. Do you want to make a cosplay out of perfectly flowing cloth? Or maybe you want rigid battle armor? Cards Custom Build has you covered. Their work is guaranteed to make you the talk of the con. So go over to Cards Custom Build either on Facebook or on their Etsy account. Links will be in the description down below. And make sure you mention that TCG University sent you there, and you'll get 5% off of your entire order. And Dex Protection. Dex Protection is on a never-ending pursuit to create the highest quality storage and protection accessories. Their design and innovation comes from die-hard gamers and collectors just like you. So they know what you want in the products that you buy. They're constantly taking in feedback from their customers, and they have no plans on stopping their innovations or their drive to refine their products until they're recognized as a leader in their industry. They make terrific products, well, all with the avid gamer and collector in mind. So go ahead and check them out. A link will be in the description down below. And with that, let's get back to the show.
I think that wraps up the Overshadow cards. If we have anything else, feel free to.
I think that's
all right,
pretty good.
cool. We're gonna go to our ad break here. We'll see you guys back after that.
Later, homies.
We're still recording. Hey, how you guys doing? Who's watching this from the side? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Hey.
All right, next one's going to be budget builds.
Let me just change that. So I just totally realized that I talked about salty cards while we're doing. Look,
That's okay. That's why I got you back on track, homie.
Thank you.
I got you.
He
I
did
don't
it
know what
before
I was thinking.
I was gonna
Yeah.
maul
I
you.
came in with the save.
Right.
What are we doing? Budget builds?
Budget builds.
Good.
Yeah.
Yup. All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, guys. Hope you liked that ad. I enjoyed it.
It was thoroughly enjoyable.
We'll be able to help out all the homies with that.
Yeah. We can actually get Byron some grain to feed himself with. Next week he comes in like tattered clothes and everything. What's going on? We don't know.
Yikes.
Holes through everything.
So, our third and final topic for the night for you guys is going to be budget builds. Or more so, how does building a deck on a budget change your playstyle in interactions?
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm going to let Zeth kick this one off because he brought up this idea and it's super solid.
So the thing that actually kind of got me thinking about this is that I was actually going through my various social medias, and one of the podcasts that I was watching on Commander for Magic the Gathering is they actually talked about how when a person's putting a deck together, if you have like a $30 deck, right, for this kind of Commander, you're going to have a different play style because there are going to be certain cards that you can't play like within your budget. So you're going to play a little differently. Like a good example of this for like Final Fantasy that I found is like if you're playing for like a $20-$40 budget, you're going to see those decks that they play either a lot of like really low to the ground forwards that have haste, or they're forwards that they don't necessarily have like a long game plan in mind because you're wanting to close the game out as soon as possible because your guys don't carry a lot of long-term value.
Yep.
So this is where you kind of start seeing your decks like Final Fantasy VII, or where you kind of start seeing things where it's like your standard unit builds because there's not really a lot of expensive standard units.
Nope.
So when you see like, you know, water wind standard units, or when you see like mono earth standard units, or like just mono earth aggro, these decks that are only like $20, maybe $40 depending on like where you're picking up in the game, that they influence the play style of, well, I gotta beat you as soon as possible because I don't really have like a long game in mind. The lightning fire deck that I've played with you guys, the popper build for it is only like $5, but then again it only plays like Zac as its 3 forwards, and then it has the 3 yellow jellies and the 3 red caps, so you're effectively playing 9 forwards. But the rest of the deck, the whole point of it is just, I just kill everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're playing like super efficient removal, like the 1-cost remove. And the most expensive card in that deck, if you're doing the popper version, is probably the 3-drop remove at like $2 or $3. And even the build that I have where it plays the 2 Hein, which is anywhere between $10 to $15, depending where you get them. If you take the Hein out of the deck, it's like $15 that you put this deck together. And like the most expensive cards in it are going to be like Terra and your removes. That's basically it. The rest of the deck is commons and rares.
Yeah. I think for sure when you're building a deck, obviously people are going to want the best that they can make.
Yeah.
But myself included on this, 90% of the decks I make always have a slight budget-esque to them because I can't always afford the super good card. Like, took us forever to get 3 copies of Sephiroth. 2 of them
He's
foiled in one.
$30.
Yeah, like, deservedly so.
Yeah.
Good card. It's just nobody wants to fork over the money for it when you also have the rest of a deck to build. It definitely, when you get the cheaper options, you do have to think about how quickly you want the game to end, or what you can put in replacement of another card. Because sometimes it might just take 2 cards to replace 1.
Yes, that's actually a really good point.
And like for instance, when I play Dragon Ball, there are cards that are like, there's like KO a card and make your opponent pitch 1. I'm gonna have to play like 2 or 3 cards to replace that effect, but still get there somehow.
Yeah. I like that you brought up Seth because theoretically speaking, you can get the same effect of the 7-cost Sephiroth with the 5-cost one that has First Strike.
At the only cost of losing cards.
Well, here's the thing: is that if my hand's empty anyway, I don't have to really worry.
That's
and
fair.
usually when you play the 7-drop Seth, it is eating up most of your hand anyway.
Yep.
So it doesn't really impact you.
Honestly,
that much.
like for Seth, like a budget way, like you know how you're saying sometimes you have to play more than one card to kind of equal the same effect. Like to me, I would think of Flan.
Yeah, the Flan package.
Yeah, because like that card is dirt cheap, and it's just a 1 CP where you search it out with itself, and then you can eventually have 3 discards at one point.
Militarized. There's a militarized 2-drop unit that does that also. That when he enters, you can duel or freeze a guy, and then you can also pop him on your turn to make them discard a card.
Yeah.
So I can totally see where if you just want to fill in those Seths with like monster slots, I could totally see that work.
Yeah.
Makes me think of it if you really want to get spicy, and it's way too much work to do. But you play the 5 and the 3, the back attack Seth, and the one that makes you pitch 2.
Yeah, magic
so you
pot
play,
it.
Yeah, so you play the 5, and then you magic pot and sack that one and play the 3 or something. That way you get your dole effect as well. Little too much work, but like sometimes to replace one card you need to put 2 more in, which comes to the point of like, what cards do I want in the deck and what do I not?
And then I think that also comes down to like, where is my cutoff? Like, what is the absolute I have to have it in the deck to function?
Yep.
Or why am I even playing this deck?
Right.
I think another budget-friendly deck is actually Rampier.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that deck, like, most of the main cards aren't that expensive.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're wanting to play, like, the best that you want, like, the best deck that you can for Rampier, obviously you're going to have to fork over money for Fusoyas, Renoas, stuff like that.
If you're doing the 3-color, absolutely. But
oddly enough, when I think of budget decks, and this only comes up because you mentioned Rampier, when Travis was... When L3 was, like, first announced and stuff,
right.
Travis built Rampier.
Budget
because,
way, yeah.
It's basically budget Rampier.
That's what I
exactly don't have access to everything else.
Yeah.
So I don't like L3. I'm gonna put that out there. I think I mentioned that before.
Okay.
I'll play it. I just don't agree with it too much.
All right.
But I think that's a solid way to get a gauge on like building a budget deck. Is playing with the L3 format.
Absolutely, I can see that. And the other cool thing too is that I like that you brought up Rampier, because yes, there is the 3-color variant that can get a little pricey depending on how you go about it. There's also the Lighting Earth variant that is still super fast and consistent, that if you're playing the 15 package with it, in addition to like your regular Rampier stuff, the deck's like $50 because the Cindy's aren't that expensive. Nyx and the whole Kingsley package actually isn't that expensive.
Yeah.
And then topping that off with like Illa's and like Shantoto herself's only like $3. So like you could get away with like a $50 Rampier deck without the ice part. It's the ice aspect with like the Seths,
or like
the
Fusoya.
Renoas. Yeah. And like the deck can function fine without Fusoya.
Yeah, it can.
For sure.
I think so too.
I don't know. Travis really wants an extra Fusoya, but I think at 1 he's fine. Card's cool. It nets you cards, and then potentially shoot shit.
Well, so my perspective on when I build decks is I really don't like leaving things to chance.
Yeah.
I've seen far too many instances of Fusoya being 1K short. And yes, you can filter cards out and you just leave your heavy-handed cards in your deck and you shoot the thing for 12K. That's super cool. But there's been too many times that, I 6K or 7K. Guess I lose.
Yeah, well...
Like, that sucks. That legitimately sucks.
Mm-hmm. In Rampier, it's not like it's super easy to come up with that 1K either.
No.
Especially after you play Fusoya. Like, you're
so gassed after you do it.
By that point... You don't have any responsibility. Mitsuki. No, you're not playing fire. Get out of here.
One ofs.
Right.
One of boy.
I mean, that's important too, I guess, is like, what if you have 1 instead of the 3 copies of the card you need for your deck to function? Do you still play that or do you replace it?
Depends what the card does.
My perspective on that is if I'm playing a singleton of that card, the adjustment I'd have to make is go the searcher route. Right? If this is my one key card that I got to get to clinch this game out, I'm going to need searchers for it. Mm-hmm. So, like, in an instant where... Oh, and that's the other thing that also kind of puts Rampier decks up there is Gabranth being, like, a $32 card. honestly speaking, if you did like a more of a forward lean with Rampierre, which is what you should be doing already, you could play Rieg. And Rieg reveals your top, and if it's a forward, it goes to your hand. You're effectively doing the same thing you're doing with Gabranth.
Just
right.
You can also play Tyros.
Yeah, I mean, Tyro's still like a $3-5 card, which you're already playing in the deck anyway.
Though? I thought it was a lot cheaper. I think it was like $1 for like just a regular common.
For Tyro?
Yeah, like the non-foil version.
I could see him going back up to like $3-5 once tournament season starts. Because, like, everyone's gonna be playing him.
You better pick them up now.
Hoard them now.
I'll get back to that later.
Okay.
I think that card can hardcore just be a red herring that messes up a deck if people go too far with it.
With Tyro?
Yeah.
Like, we talked about it last.
Yeah.
But post show.
Okay.
Red herrings. All right,
like
cool.
it.
Let's go. Continuing.
So that's the thing that I was talking about, like influencing like budget for builds, is that so even with like a $50-$60 like Rampierre deck, you're going to be a lot more tempo oriented than like the $250 variant, which is where, because I don't know what it is about card games, but like air quotes control decks always seem to cost more than when you try to do a mid-range deck or when you try to do a tempo deck. I don't understand what it is.
I want to say it's because control decks almost always include the cards that are generically just good.
Okay.
And I want a better way to say that, but I can't think of it right now. But like throughout all the card games,
universally good
like
card.
throughout all the card games I played, I've noticed that like some of the most expensive cards are cards that are universally played that just work. They just do their job consistently every time.
Yeah, so like for Final Fantasy, it'd be Gabranth.
Yep.
Like like there is no card that just straight up replaces Gabranth because he does literally almost everything. He can kill stuff. He can swing. He grabs you any toolbox forward that you need.
Oh.
The dude does your dishes, tucks you in at night. Like,
reads you a bedtime story, gives you a little bitty bye kiss.
No, like he like reads you the bedtime story of all the big 5 cost where it's like Cloud, Fusoya. He tells you about all those really great Final Fantasy stories. Hey, he does it for 4 CP. The dude's insane.
That's why the card's expensive.
If you can't tell already, I love Gabranth.
Yeah.
He's probably like my favorite card.
Well, like that's why 7 CP Sephiroth's so good. Because if you build backups to play that card, by that point your opponent, unless they're playing like a deck that draws a lot, is slightly gassed too, they lose their hand and they have to fight their way back up. And then you just Shadow Flare them and do it again.
Renault is another like pretty generic card, I think, too. The 4 CP.
She enables whatever's with her. That's like her big thing. And the fact of the matter with that is, I mean, the old school combo with her is Devout. And once people did that, I mean, she's just... And I think the other thing that leads to Renault's budget issue also, she's the only card that realistically does it. We have the Time Mage that also flickers, but Renault does it on a body, and she's the only forward that does it on a body, and I think that's what leads to her.
She is the only forward.
Une
does it, but Une also requires you to play summons.
Cheap summons at that.
Yeah,
like you basically at that point you're locking yourself into, because you want the best possible outcome, playing Une, Yuna, and cheap water summons.
Or the other build that I've seen with Une also is like you just do it off of stuff with Zalira and stuff also, the 1-cost Zalira. My favorite way of playing Une, though, there's a 2-cost Carbuncle, right? Target your forward, give it 2k. If it's 9k or less, returns back to your hand. So for 2 CP, you guarantee Une hit. The problem is grabbing Carbuncle and then grabbing Une. And I'm still trying to find the magic puzzle, right? Where, because we have all those 3-drop backups that let you hit either like a wind or an ice card, or like a fire or an ice card. I'm trying to find the magic combination where Une's the only fire card, the only ice card in my deck, and that way I guarantee hitting Une exactly when I need her.
Yeah.
As opposed to having to fish the whole game for her, or looks like I have to get rid of her early and play cards.
Travis's whole thing for that was just ice water, and he plays Zidane, and you just draw cards with Zidane. You mull for Une, or you mull for Zidane, and you hard fish. Like that's how he did it. And it was, I can't say it was super consistent, but just about every game he would get Une on the field. I've seen games where he's been able to throw her out turn 1, he nets. Because once you have like Une and you play Veritas and you have a Famfrit in hand, it's pretty funny to like break 3 dudes.
Because the problem I have with Une is like it's a whole turn you're doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, for sure, because it costs 6.
Yeah.
That's the issue. I think I mean, that's also very important. Is like some of the good cards are aren't as costly as what you want to replace them with.
Yeah.
So Gabranth is a 4 CP dude.
That's
if
right.
I want to do everything Gabranth does, I'm probably paying realistically to do everything he does 9 CP. And it feels bad when I could theoretically fork over the money and just pay 4 CP.
That's if you can find a Gabranth.
Right, fair enough.
Everybody's bought them.
Everybody wants them.
Why do you think I'm pulling 9-packs? I want more Gabbies.
Why do you, we flipped nuts when James bought his waft deck.
Oh my goodness, I
Because
remember.
he paid like $50 for that deck, and
he
there
had
was
a
a
foil.
Gabranth in it.
It was
he
a
had
foil.
a foil Gabranth in it for the full waft deck, and he got a foil. He just basically paid for a Gabranth and got a waft deck on top. I was like, who sold you that?
Yeah, no.
I had everything.
Yeah,
it had the whole deck.
There was a foil waft deck that I saw that I was interested in. Yeah, like that sold like for like $500-$600 because
Yeah.
of the foil Gabranths.
Yeah.
Were they
I'm
full
not gonna
arts
lie.
or foils?
Foils.
The full arts.
Full arts.
Yeah, for sure. Card games are pricey.
Yeah.
It's called cardboard crack for a reason.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've started branching into that. I probably could like save money if I branch out of it, but man, it's really
hard.
fun to beat down somebody with a shiny deck.
Right.
That's why people collect shiny Pokemon.
So you guys got any more thoughts before we move on to our post show?
I mean, I'm pretty solid. I think we've covered the basis of everything. I guess budget builds is something to explore more, but like it, honestly, in general, it just comes down to how you decide to replace the card, or how you decide to build a deck.
Absolutely. It's that influence.
Yeah.
So, final
You gotta know
thought.
what you're going for. You gotta have like a turn set up.
Final thought. Do you think building a budget deck pulls you towards a more fast-paced aggro deck? Is that like the consensus kind of? Do you think it's if we want to go budget, you're going to be playing more aggro decks probably?
I like that you brought that up because that's the connotation a lot of people
Yeah.
think is that, oh, well, you're wanting $20-$30. Here's an aggro deck. Have a lot of fun.
All forwards.
I played this Fire Lightning. It's a control deck. It's a very hard control deck that is only $20. So, and I also kind of like playing this deck also because it fights that connotation of, oh, well, you only have $20-$30. Go play an aggro deck.
Yeah.
Like you're not really teaching the game then if like you float the idea that you only have $20. Well, all you're going to be playing is aggro decks because like Noah mentioned, finding those alternatives, while it's gonna suck until you actually like have the actual card in your hands. Like you can make those workarounds, like playing 5-drop Saf and just understanding that nuance of your deck. That all right, this is effectively my 7-drop Saf. I just gotta do it when my hand's emptier than my opponent's.
Yeah.
Or like you mentioned, Flans, right? And then you play Larcacus with that, and you just keep flicking out Flans. Like it's entirely doable.
Yeah, for sure.
But I do see where the idea for I'm just gonna play an aggro deck comes from because a lot of aggro cards with haste, they're like 2 drops and they're like 15 cents, if even that. Or like Tifa, that's like $1.
Sometimes people would just give you those cards, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll branch off that just a bit. I think building a budget deck personally gives you can slightly make you a better player because it gives you more card knowledge. I've learned from building decks and like going the budget route. If I can't play this super good card and I have to replace it with 2 of another one, I'll probably find something that like I could put in another deck that just does as well. Like you learn about a whole bunch of different cards because you're trying to figure out what to replace things with.
Yeah.
So you're ready for matchup knowledges if you need it. You have outs for anything else if you decide to put it in. And like just in general, you understand the game a lot more.
And my last thought is that for me, when it comes to like doing like a low budget build, it really goes to show the power of the pilot. And like you mentioned with like that really intimate matchup knowledge, knowing exactly when these cards work and when these cards don't work, as well as just the unique challenge of I can win without getting a $30 or $40 card. I can win off of this batch of bulk cards that I got from our community pile.
It might be hard, but like once you do it and you're able to do it successfully a few more times, you are a better player.
And it's so refreshing.
Yeah.
Like when you bring it to like different play groups and stuff like that, it's so refreshing.
Like, hey, look at this cool interaction I never thought of, but like,
yeah.
They just got stomped.
All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that about sums it up. We'd like to thank you guys for tuning in and watching our podcast. Obviously, we are Final Fantasy. We're obviously the coolest card game on this channel.
Yeah, you.
But it's fine. Make sure to support us and everything. If you guys want, you can always view the post show by supporting us on Patreon. Our post show is not 90% of us just shooting shit, but this one has a topic as well, like they usually do. So yeah, we'll see all the rest of you guys there.
Bye, homies.
See ya.